Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Pod Fruit One Piece Through New Eyes. On today's episode, we will turn our focus to Volume 3, titled Don't Get Fooled Again. Volume 3 covers chapters 18 through 26. I am the host, Michael, and with me, as always, we have our One Piece rookies, V and Dylan.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Let's begin. Volume 3 kicks off with Luffy questioning Buggy the Clown over his connections to red-haired Shanks. Buggy and Luffy then begin to battle. Buggy eventually lands a hit on Luffy's straw hat, the same hat given to Luffy by Shanks. Buggy reveals that he and Shanks were once shipmates. Buggy remembers how he and Shanks were once apprentice pirates, but Shanks accidentally caused him to swallow a devil fruit that he intended to sell. This caused animosity between Buggy and Shanks. Buggy then sees Nami stealing his treasure and goes after her. Luffy discovers the weakness of Buggy's ability, and Nami ties up most of his body parts. Luffy then sends the remainder of Buggy flying away with a powerful attack. The villagers arrive and learn that Luffy knocked out their mayor. The Straw Hats then escape, with Chushu blocking the townspeople. Mayor Boodle finds them as they set off to sea and thanks them. Luffy, Zoro, and Nami come to a strange island populated by hybrid animals and a man in a treasure chest named Gaimon. The Straw Hats realize they need a real ship and arrive at an island where they meet Usopp, the town liar. The Straw Hats also meet the Usopp Pirates, a pretend pirate crew made up of children. Usopp goes to his bedridden friend Kaya's house to tell her stories, but gets in a scuffle with her butler, Klahadore. Usopp is chased away from Kaya's mansion by Klahadore, and the Usopp pirates meet a strange hypnotist named Django. While talking, Luffy and Usopp overhear Klahadore and Django talking about their plan to assassinate Kaya. Klahadore is revealed to be the renowned pirate Kuro, and Django incapacitates Luffy. Usopp tries to warn everyone about Kuro's plan, but they do not believe him as the Black Cat pirates prepare to invade. So, that is our summary for Volume 3. Again, that encompasses chapters 18 through 26. As always, we're going to go through chapter by chapter, discuss them, take turns here. And as is tradition, I'll go ahead and start things off with chapter 18. I loved this chapter. I thought chapter 18 was stellar. We get a slight payoff on the cliffhanger that left us in chapter 17, volume 2, about the red-haired pirates. And, they start talking about it. You get a little glimpse. There's more to come, but you get a little glimpse of what that's all about. I just love the standoff between these two. This is a really good action chapter. Neither one lands a blow on the other throughout this whole chapter, if I remember correctly, until the hat is hit. But yeah, really good action chapter. You see some really cool moves coming out of each of them. You see what they're capable of. Buggy hits a nice sidestep when Luffy is swinging at him. Some great panels, some great artwork of the fight. When Buggy's head, he pops his head off to dodge a hit, that made me, I'm not going to say nut, but I'm not going to say. It was so good. This chapter was so good. The fact that they were so evenly matched. Luffy didn't understand what he was up against. Buggy possibly understood, but just he's not that guy. And we're building up to the lore drop. Then, when he hits the hat, and you see Luffy's soul, leave his body for a second. Yeah. And then, at that point, Buggy is intentionally going for the hat. That's a mistake. Nami sees this new intense side of Luffy. Yeah, I just think this chapter is very action-packed. It starts to give us the payoff that will come soon, but the art for the action is chef's kiss. And then, oh, no, you know what? Luffy does rock Buggy. I think at the very end, last couple chapters, he does beat the information out of Buggy. So those are my broad strokes here, or those are my ideas for chapter 18. Dylan, I'm going to give you the honor of going second here.
Okay. Kind of like you said, they seem pretty evenly matched. One thing I was noticing a lot is Buggy, it seems like, really kind of figured out how Luffy likes to fight pretty early on, which is with these wild haymakers for the head. It's like when he does Gum Gum Sickle, he just pops his head off.
I get that.
And then, like you said, the hat's a great thing, and it still brings to the point I made last time where treasure means very different things between different characters, whereas Luffy, it's sentiment.
Absolutely.
Big sentimental value to the hat because it's from a person he admires greatly, whereas Buggy, it's all wealth.
I think one of those is maybe more powerful than the others. Maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of something the author might be trying to like get at as a point or a moral.
Well, there's something more substantial to a treasure that is something that you actually care about instead of just going after riches.
No, I do treasure money. Like if you handed me a box of diamonds,
money.
You hand me a box of diamonds and then try to take it away, I'm going to fight you.
Yeah, but what if you had a box of diamonds and then something that is something incredibly precious to you that you have cherished for your life? And
like
my cats?
Yes, sure. Your cats. What would you pick?
My cats.
Yeah.
Buy more cats. That's a lot.
Sorry, Dylan, go on.
No, you're good. But like that's something I noticed that Buggy seemed to have like picked out his fight style, and then after that, Luffy gets mad. And then once he gets mad, he's coming in for another big hit, and you see Buggy. He's like, haha, I'm just going to pop my head off again. And Luffy just knees him right in the fucking chest.
I loved it.
And it's just like, okay. It's like
Chef's
either
kiss.
Luffy's just mad, or it's like Luffy has understood that he thinks that all he does is throw haymakers at the head, and now he's trying to target the body.
I love the panel there. It shows force.
Oh, so good. I have thoughts on that.
It's one of those things too. Kind of like I kind of had an issue like I did with what was it, the dumb lion Moby. Oh, I'll call him Moji. It's funner.
You can call him whatever
but
you
it's
want.
the same thing. It's like you can't like with the panel. I was having trouble telling if it was a kick because he comes out and winding up for a punch and then he hits him in the chest because it looks like he's going to go for a headshot again.
Oh yeah, you know what? That's a good call out. You see him winding up, and that's clearly like a kick or a knee.
Yeah,
I feel
but you
like
see him
it's
pulling
a
the arm
knee,
back,
'cause
getting ready to punch, and then
his leg is a little folded up, but
yeah, and when you see that little
it's hard to tell.
Anime fight laser beam. But yeah, that was kind of cool seeing like how like Buggy picked his for the fight was Buggy picked apart his fight style. Then Luffy got mad, changed up his stance, and was actually starting to land some hits. And also the throughout this chapter, like seeing all of his like little like early sketches on like Buggy and like how he tweaked the character as he was going, I liked that a lot this time.
That's silly guy on the left-hand side.
Yeah, no, who is he? No one knows.
No one knows.
No one knows.
No. Look at his face.
Well,
did someone run over him with 3 bicycles? Audience, please look at the SBS and chapter 18. It's worth a look. Yeah, Dylan, totally agree. V?
So I gotta say, when I first started that chapter, I got so caught up in the drama of the previous volume's cliffhanger with the mention of Shanks that I kind of totally forgot that Luffy was about to face Captain Buggy. Like, seeing them get ready for battle brought me back to like, oh, right, okay, that's what we're about to do. Okay, yeah. Now I'm back to where we're actually needing to be, because I was like, Shanks? Anyway, the whole, like, encounter / battle scene was pretty ridiculous if you think about it, but in the best way. Like, it's absurd, it's cartoony, but it's also super eye-catching and captivating. Like you guys were talking about, the art is super dynamic. For example, there's a shot of the Chop Chop Buzzsaw shoe. I thought that was really good for some reason. And then, of course, the Gum Gum Sickle with the decapitation. I'm doing air quotes, listeners. Decapitation of Buggy. Although, I gotta say, in my head, the decapitation sounded like when you pop open a bottle of champagne. Like, in my mind, it was like, boop. in terms of like what it would have sounded like.
Are you saying is that what it would sound like if Luffy actually hit? Because I think Buggy pops his head off.
Right. No, but I mean that's to me that's what it sounds like when I saw it. Even though he did it to himself,
is that what it always sounds like whenever he disconnects anything? It's just like champagne popping off.
Sure. Listen, it's his joints popping, but for me, for the head, I could picture like the cork of a champagne bottle being popped up. You know. Of course, you guys spoke to it. The importance of the hat in the chapter is really good character building. You can tell that Luffy truly does care about it. Even Nami points it out. Like, you don't expect Luffy to be fazed by much of anything, honestly, just because of who he is as a person or who we learn, we come to know him as a person. But it really does get to him. And that is what makes the situation a little bit heartbreaking. The half page of the 3-bladed fist having sliced through the hat caught me off guard, and even I felt anger and indignation like Luffy does.
Right.
I also have a note here with regards to the different expressions that are drawn on Luffy's face in those close-up shots following the hat getting damaged. I feel like they're very compelling. Like the way that his face is drawn is very compelling, and it's not like it's drawn in one specific style. It's like 3 or 4 different types of way that his face is drawn, and that you can really capture the emotions that he's going through as that is going on. I thought that was really interesting. And, we're talking about that last panel, super dynamic action shot with the lines that are like expressing rapid movement. Just the way the lines are drawn on it, you can see that he's like going at it really hard, really fast. Ooh.
You can almost feel it, yeah.
Right. And like the very, like the bottom shot with Buggy's
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, with Buggy's facial expression.
Love it.
It's like, it's flawless. It's very clownish, but that's appropriate.
Sad clown.
Yeah, sad clown. Tragic clown. But yeah, that's kind of what I had for chapter 18. I thought it was a great action chapter. Again, I feel like I fly through those chapters, the action ones, because it's not as much reading, right? Yeah. But it keeps me engaged to see everything moving along. So yeah, it was a good one. I do the same
thing. Yeah.
I will say on the hat thing though, like I'm not sure if it's a reference a lot of people will get, but like anytime somebody messes with the hat, kind of reminds me of like the Ip Man movies, like when Ip Man rolls up his sleeves. As soon as those sleeves go up, someone's getting their ass beat.
I can't relate because I've never seen one, but I'm sure someone out there will.
I've seen just the first Ip Man.
Oh, that one's the best
movie. Really good martial arts movies for anyone who wants.
Chef's kiss on that one.
Yeah, very good.
All right. Yeah, any last words on chapter 18, either of you?
I'm good.
All right. Dylan, you're up for chapter 19 to kick it off.
All right. 19's kind of funny. I like the part where it's like, oh, you ruined my hat, and he's still mad about the hat. And it's like, you even spat on it. He starts wiping it on him. He's like, oh, it's disgusting. It's like, it's your spit. Deal with it.
Yeah, he hates that.
Like, at the part, like, he starts, like, you can tell he's really pissed, because at one point it's like, chop, chop, and then, like, Luffy's just beating his ass when he's on the ground. He's like, don't come apart again. I ain't done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I loved that. Don't come apart.
And then I love just, like, the pirate crew in the background. Like, oh, dang, dude, this is intense. It's like, what should we do? It's like, let's keep pretending to be dead. It's like, that's a good idea. Let's do that. And this is the point, like, you also get the point where, like, all the townspeople are like, oh, man, the mayor's been gone for a long time. I like seeing that where the townspeople are like, you know what? No. Now's the time where we stand up for ourselves. Let's go defend our mayor. At that point, I really like seeing the flashback, kind of like seeing Shank and Buggy as crewmates together. It's kind of like the things, it's like, I kind of get the vibe where they're the best friends, but they're like the best friends that always fight and are always bickering with each other, but they
like
love
frenemies,
each other to death.
You know?
Yeah. And I just love the point where it's like, oh, I'm going to get so rich. I faked the fruit. And then Shanks comes up and says, hey, man. And he's like, oh, God, oh, crap. And it's like, oh, yeah, don't do that. Stop stealing food. The cook is going to get you for that. And then he walks away and comes back and says, oh, by the way, the captain said, and then he swallows the fruit. I love that. But I think, yeah, my favorite part is probably seeing Buggy and Shanks' younger parents for this chapter. I really liked that bit of story building. You also get to see that no, it doesn't matter what devil fruit it is, you can't swim anymore. Yeah. Buggy goes in after the map. It's like, what's going on, dude? You're supposed to be a great swimmer.
I hadn't even made that connection, Dylan. This is a V aha moment. I feel like I'm going to have many of those. Because like I said, I'm not the most perceptive. I need things explained to me. I know I mentioned that in the last episode. So
that's what we're here for.
This is a V aha moment. I thank you for pointing that out. I had not realized.
No problem. And then to end it, like, again, the end part where he's kind of going over all this stuff, and it's like, oh, how did Buggy become Buggy? It's like, well, I had him as Boogie first. And it's like, why'd you switch it? It's like, yeah, I saw a movie and Boogie was a character. And it took me literally like 0.2 seconds to make that decision. I was like, all right, dude's flying by the seat of his pants. I can respect that.
Yeah,
but that's all I got.
Improvisation is better than even planning in the end. V?
Sure. Chapter 19 was good. I feel like it was a little bit of a whiplash, like going from such an action-packed chapter in chapter 18 now going to something that's a lot more, character building, lore, all of that. But I didn't dislike it. I did enjoy that we were brought back to the rest of the villagers. I think it helps me put things into perspective because I get lost in those action chapters. Having that sense of perspective again helps in realizing that the village is their home and they're ready to put their lives on the line for it and to support their mayor. And I feel like that was a really great moment for the village. On the topic of flashbacks, I really like the use of a flashback scene for storytelling, but only when it's well done. And in this case, I enjoyed the way they went about it. Sometimes I feel like flashback scenes are a little bit of a cheap crutch for people to lean on, but in this chapter, they made sure that they got the best use of it. And they did that by addressing several plot points in a way that makes sense, right? Like it wasn't just, they didn't just use the flashback because they wanted to do it. They did it because it served an actual purpose in the storytelling. Like we find out more about the two characters, their aspirations, the way in which they're similar, and the ways in which they are very different. And it also introduces story elements that are relevant to like the quote-unquote present day story. Finding out that Shanks is the driving force and the cause for who Buggy is now because he accidentally made him swallow the fruit and also drop the map was a great moment. Like, no wonder Buggy has issues with the guy. Like, for real. Like, I get it. Also, there was a line in there, I chuckled because I have, and I mentioned that again in previous episodes, I have the humor of a 5-year-old. I think it's Buggy that says, none of you has a proper appreciation for booty.
I don't know if that was an entendre, though.
I know, and that's
just what pirates call treasure.
I know. They probably didn't mean it that way, but that's
the 5-year-old thing.
Right, that's the way I interpret because of who I am as a person. You guys know this,
right?
And I really liked, there's like a sudden change of perspective when after the flashback, Luffy says, "So Shanks saved your life." Like, yep. They focused on two entirely different things in Buggy's retelling of the story, but both of those things or events are both real and important. Buggy's outlook is fueled by revenge and hatred for Shanks, whereas Luffy's is kind of bolstered by the admiration he has for Shanks. So it's two sides of the same coin, right? And I thought that sudden shift really was like, oh shit, right, I could really see it from both angles. And then I liked the end of the chapter, where we get a little cliffhanger there on the end when Nami is walking out with the treasure in her hands, like right in the middle of the fight. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen with this treasure? So, yeah, those are my thoughts on chapter 19.
I really enjoyed chapter 19. I love a good lore dump. V, to follow up what you were saying, a lot of lore, not all, But a lot of lore in One Piece is given through flashbacks because there's a lot of stuff that did happen a long time ago. And you'll see that more as we go through. Sometimes it's just for a character's backstory, but sometimes we do see not just flashbacks, but also flash sideways just to a different place in the world at the present moment.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of different like time shifts and location shifts, varying degrees of that. But I did want to point it out because you brought it up. This one was cool. You get to see Shanks, young Buggy, cutting up, being young pirates. Now they each have their own crew. What I want to know is where the hell did Buggy find a fake devil fruit? And if he made one, that's impressive, but also unusual.
That's a good point.
You guys touched on a lot of what I had here. Don't Come Apart, where Luffy is literally pounding Buggy's face into the ground, is pretty intense. I think that shows the rage just as well as anything else that's come before. We had a lot of that in the last chapter, but he is bashing this clown man, and you can feel the anger there. I did want to point out that this is the second person who we've seen Shanks save their life in like the water.
That's true.
So he saved Luffy's life just like he saved Buggy's. So what that means, I'm not going to tell. You get to see Buggy, young Buggy, cocky, arrogant. He hasn't changed much. One of you touched on their relationship, adversarial, I wrote, but cordial. Like they're close enough to where they seem to spend at least some time together on the ship.
Well, you bring that up. I really enjoyed the part like when they're kind of like after they took the ship and they're talking about the booty and everything. When they're sitting there, it's like, oh, we're gonna be our own crew, and when we meet each other, it's gonna be a fight to the end. Right. And like Shanks is like, yep, that's what being a pirate's all about. And then like just talk a little bit, and then he says something else. It's like, yep, that's what being a pirate's all about. And it's just like, okay, is that just like your catchphrase now? Is that just
he said that's also what being a pirate's all about?
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, that just made me laugh.
Yeah, like they're having a moment together. Buggy's a little bit less friendly in the relationship than Shanks is. I think Shanks likes Buggy a little bit more than Buggy likes Shanks. But yeah, it's kind of funny that Buggy gets his life saved and hates Shanks for that reason. It's totally in character. So, yeah. And then the final panel of this chapter, which you kind of pointed out, where Buggy's flying to attack Nami. And she's got her eyes all whited out, as we've seen her with whited out eyes a lot lately. She's taken some surprise L's here and there. But yeah, Nami looks startled. Buggy looks threatening. I think those panels I think they nailed what they were trying to do. And that's all I got for chapter 19. We will pass it over to you, V, to start chapter 20.
Sure. I didn't have a whole lot for chapter 20. A few key points is I'm not surprised that Luffy would step in to help Nami. Like, on the one hand, I think it's probably partially due to his legendary lack of self-awareness that I will probably keep mentioning ad nauseum because that's just the kind of person he is. But I also think that he truly sees the value of Nami as being a potential crew member and as a person. And I think, whether he is truly cognizant of that fact, he will do everything he can to defend her. And I think that is true not only of her, but also of anyone that he will and has welcomed into his crew. I feel like that's the kind of guy he is. Something that did kind of catch me off guard with this chapter is I feel like I always knew that Nami was somewhat materialistic, but her moment of saying that she stole this treasure and it's hers really highlighted that. Like, she comes across as a little bit entitled in a way, which I guess I felt like it was going to happen, but maybe I didn't feel like it was going to happen so early on in the story. But when you think about it, it is very fitting for a thief, right? I loved the absolute irony of the tickling being a clown's downfall. I feel like
that
was genius. I don't know if they did it really on purpose, but that moment to me was like, are you fucking kidding me? They did that. And that was interesting. That was like, yeah, in terms of storytelling and in terms of kind of having something so on the nose, like, and I mean, he has a clown nose, so we can say that. Yeah. I think that was really clever. And I also loved kind of the ending of the chapter and the resolution or the conclusion, so to speak, that, you know, Buggy's power of being able to be chopped into bits ends up being a huge weakness in the end.
Poetic justice.
Yes, absolutely. Again, with a little bit of that irony in there that I thought was really well thought of, and I think offered a nice, it kind of put a nice bow on it, so to speak. But that's about all I had for chapter 20. It was a good kind of ending to 3 really dynamic chapters.
Agreed. So I am next for chapter 20, and last episode we kind of talked about Kabaji fighting dirty when he was kicking Zoro in the side and his wound with his knife, or I guess it wasn't a knife, but it was like a really sharp-pointed toe. And we called that dirty. Is Luffy kicking Buggy in the nuts dirty? That's my question for you guys, both of you.
Well, the thing is, like, lack of self-awareness. I don't think it was so much to save Nami. It was more just like, hey, no, you're fighting me. Pay attention to me. Right. And I was just like, this is the best way to get your attention. Hey, don't turn your back on me. I ain't done yet.
I would agree with Dylan. Also, as someone who does not have balls, I feel like I'm unequipped, literally, to speak on that matter.
I don't know. I think getting kicked in the coos probably hurts pretty bad,
too. I've heard it does. I don't know.
It does.
I mean, getting kicked, if it's a hard enough kick. Yeah.
Listen.
So, yeah, he does actually say, don't forget, our fight's not over, Dylan, to kind of wrap your point up in a little bow there. That's like the next thing that Luffy says after kicking him in the nuts. So I think you might be onto something there. Mm-hmm. Another callback to our last episode, you, V, mentioned that you were curious to see what kind of limits there are on the chop fruit. And I think this kind of shows it in a really interesting way.
Absolutely.
You know, his pieces are flying everywhere. His feet are on the ground, and that's the problem. Also, I did have a note here about how Nami claims ownership for the treasure. That is her treasure at this point, as far as I'm concerned. She does the little tongue stick out thing
that was very cute.
On page 6. So cute. The tickle, I got that down. What a great way to fight a clown. I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. I did put silly way to fight a very silly villain, but I mean, yeah, he's a clown getting tickled. I think that's even a deeper layer of irony. Would that be irony? We get Luffy nailing Buggy with a nice kick. It says shawak in the onomatopoeia comic book language. He lays him out, and the way Nami ties him up, and he doesn't even realize what's happened at that point, and he comes together as this little guy, and then was it bazookaed? Does he get Gum Bazooka? Yeah, he gets Gum Bazookaed out of there. I thought to kind of call back to previous chapters, but I thought the Buggy fight, Luffy versus Buggy, and even go back further, Zoro versus Kabaji. I thought these were some great fights for this early on in the story. I'm a lore guy. I love lore chapters. I like action chapters. I even love some action chapters, but first and foremost, I love the world building of One Piece. But these nailed it. Each villain kind of got caught up in their own hubris, their own poetic justice, their own irony, and it was just perfect throughout these couple chapters, and we'll get into it. But I thought these couple chapters, the first how many have we done? 3? Yeah, the first 3 were the high point of this volume, and I'll get more into that later. But
I kind of agree.
Yeah, that's what I got for chapter 20. I do believe, Dylan, you're set to wrap it up.
Okie doke. We kind of covered a lot of the points I wanted to make with the whole kicking in the groin. That's him being we're not done. Stop. You fucked up my hat. I still got some ass to beat. And also what you were talking about, V, with Nami being kind of entitled a little bit. I got major league spoiled brat toddler vibes.
Oh yeah.
No, the treasure's mine. Mine. I was like, oh, you little shit. God, if I hear you in the store, I'm going to be so angry. Mm-hmm. And she's so cool. With the tying up, you saw it. She tied up Luffy.
She tied up Luffy.
A chance. Yeah, in a second. And did the same thing with him. And also, you'll never not catch me laughing at a dude who's just a head, hands, and feet.
If you ever see blasted. Dylan not laugh at that, that's a test to find out if the Dylan you're talking to is an imposter.
It's actually a doppelganger, everyone.
You see that? It's ooh, sus. But yeah, I love that. He comes back together. He's like, now I'm going to get you. And it's insert mini-me noises. But yeah, we covered a lot of the good points. I think it's funny, with the feet thing. And that's kind of the weakness of his power that you guys point out. Sure, all of his other body parts can go somewhere, but something is rooted in Spot. Has to stay in a position for him to be able to send the rest out. But then the whole coochie, the onomatopoeia they use for the fucking tickle in the feet, and then stubbing his toes, that hurt me. I was like, oh man, damn.
You can feel that pain.
Yeah, it's not even just a toe, that's the foot.
Then he's pinching the foot. What's that?
Yeah, he's pinching the Achilles tendon. Oh. Which if you've ever pulled that before, that hurts so fucking bad. That is not a comfortable experience. But yeah, I mean, we covered most of it, and I mean, like I said, like you were pointing out earlier, this the complaint I had more with the villains, it's just getting one punched and it's done. This is more of what I'm expecting to see, more fleshed out villains, their fights being a little longer, more drawn out, more grandiose, and and again, seeing his sketches and stuff, I'm really enjoying those end of chapter things where he has his rough sketches and stuff and all that. I've been really enjoying that. Since you've called that out, I've been paying way more attention to it. But that's all I got on that one.
Also, one last thing I wanted to point out. On the second to last page, I don't think I noticed this panel or else I would have written it down, but there's this wide shot of Luffy standing next to little Buggy, and I literally just noticed it. It's kind of hilarious. Just wanted to point that out. Just seeing them stacked up. Chapter 21 is mine to start here. And yeah, they're wrapping up their loose ends. They're getting the heck out of town. Mostly what I have here is just some point outs of some really funny moments. I loved when Luffy is don't lump me in with him. Nami was talking about how they're barely human, and referring to Zoro as well. And Luffy's don't lump me in with him. And then Nami says something along the lines of, you're less human than he is. Excuse me. It's so cute seeing Nami hugging her treasure. Again, she is the best. They have the funny bit where Luffy's pretty much just giving them up, telling the townspeople exactly what happened. Nami's like, why are you doing this? And Luffy says, they are good people. To which Nami replies, so? Shushu makes a surprise appearance here. The whole town is frightened of this dog. Shushu is not that scary. I mean, come on now.
Bruh, little dogs are mean as piss. They'll bite the shit out of you for no reason other than that you exist.
Right. You get to see Luffy's what's the word? Naivety. He's honest. He's kind, and he's a little too trusting here. They could have left very quietly. They didn't have to even talk to the townspeople. They could have just left. V, I I have your name written down here for the panel where Zoro just says "ow." I'm trying to scroll to it. Yeah, he's got all the stress lines in his face, and they freak out. I think that's maybe a.
I do love the fact that they just all jump in the ocean, swim away.
Yeah,
That's
they
great.
It doesn't matter how they get out of there. They got to get out of there. They're not ready to fuck with Zoro. I wouldn't be either. I mean, look at him. That face.
I mean, I would, but in a different way, maybe.
I don't think he would want to fight you. But again, Luffy expresses kindness and empathy, gives the treasure away. The narrator confirms Nami has joined the crew. And then the narrator goes on to mention the trial of the forest, which sounds a lot more intense than we assume. Come to realize. But just to kind of tie it up in a bow here, nice wrap-up chapter, gets them out of town, ties up the loose ends, fun and funny, heartwarming. There's not a ton of lore that's being dumped here. There's not a ton of action. And you get to see some fun hijinks at the last page here of them, of Nami learning that Luffy has given away the treasure. But yeah, that's all I got on chapter 21. Dylan, you're next.
Yeah, you covered a lot of the really good points. One thing I've picked up from this chapter is it really seems like Zolo and Luffy are like extremely kindred spirits. Because whereas Zolo's not going to go out and just blurt stuff out the way Luffy does, every time he does it in this chapter, Zolo's laughing his ass off about it. Because when he's like, no, we are pirates. And then he just starts laughing. And then like Nami's like, what the hell are you doing? And again, Nami, much like, why am I forgetting his name?
Boodle?
No, the kid from the first volume? Kobe, yeah.
Kobe,
is the voice of reason in this. It's like, because I think it might be in this chapter, maybe next. But she's talking like every time she hears them talking about what they do, she's like, "How are you guys pirates?" Like it's like that's a reoccurring theme for her, and I like seeing that a lot.
Yeah, great call out.
But yeah, I mean, it's great. It seems this is a theme when they exit a town, is that they're running to the ship, get on the ship, and someone comes and is like, "Oh my god, thank you, bye." But yeah, a good tie-up chapter, kind of put in, like you said, a nice, neat bow on this chunk of the story. But that's all I really got for this chapter.
And V?
Sure. So I really enjoyed the interaction between Luffy, Nami, and Zoro when Luffy first wakes up Zoro from his comatose state. There's an innocence about how Luffy approaches him, just as if he was waking up a friend from a normal nap. And, Nami is basically the only one that's cognizant of how ridiculous the thought of Zoro being okay after this is. And also, like you pointed out, Michael, the whole, like, you're even less human than he is line was wonderful. I also, with regards to the interaction with the villagers, I'm a very strong believer in honesty and transparency, but in this specific situation, I was on board with Nami.
I would have given them a good old Irish goodbye.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Again, I'm not
sure.
So
like, you're like hammered and punch him in the face?
No,
that's the Irish hello.
Exactly. The Irish goodbye is when you
what are you
just
gonna
leave
do about it?
without saying a word. Again, I'm not sure if Luffy is just clueless, but there's like no sense of self-preservation in this guy. And it shows, because anyone with half a mind would be like, I probably shouldn't be telling them that I knocked their mayor out, you know? I knew Shushu would come back. I also knew that he was the absolute goodest boy, and...
He's an okay boy.
No, he's the goodest.
No, he's great.
Yeah.
You need to stop.
Thank you, Dylan. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry that Michael is a heartless monster.
Here we go with the name calling again.
Here we are. I'm not surprised that the pirates that Nami stole from found their way back to her. But yeah, that Michael, you pointed it out, when they run away after they see Zoro, I was like, oh yes, he's so powerful and he's so masculine and he's such a badass.
I can fix him.
He doesn't need fixing, honey.
He is the fix.
Exactly. He is the solution to all of the problems. So that kind of made me like him even more than I already did, which I didn't know was possible, but again, here we are. There are a few also great moments there with the mayor. I think it's clear that he is immensely thankful for Luffy's involvement. Even though he solved the village's problem through absolute chaos. But maybe that's exactly what they needed in that case. Whether or not they knew it, whatever they did, it ended up being a net positive outcome, I'd like to think. And I think that was good. And yeah, we got the little moment where Nami is now like officially part of the crew, and I gotta say, when I first read the chapter and I was like, oh, we have a little cliffhanger that's hinting towards like what the next ordeal is, I didn't know what the next ordeal was going to be, and I thought that it was going to be a lot more, the trial of the forest.
Right?
Sounds ominous, and then you actually read it and you're like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, same.
That's
same.
it. But, yeah, that's all I had for 21.
Well, to touch on the point you made, like, I like the point, like, when Chow Chow came back and, like, was defending them, and all the villagers like, why are you doing this? And then the mayor regains consciousness, and it's like, oh, what happened? Oh, the kids are still alive, thank goodness. Like, yeah, they're a bunch of low-life, scallywag punks. He's like, you shut the hell up. Only I get to call them names.
Yeah, exactly. Don't.
And everyone's like, why the hell are you defending these guys? They eventually find out. It's like, oh, no, they saved the town. They're good people.
Any last words before we move on to 22?
All right, so start with chapter 22.
Yeah, that'll be you, Dylan.
Okay. I just like how it opens up, and Luffy's like, "Fuck yeah, you fixed my hat," and I'm just like, "All right, well, it's a temporary fix. Like, just be gentle." And then immediately pokes a hole through the hat. And she's like, "You don't listen to anything," and like stabs him in the face with the needle. It's like, "Oh, what the fuck? You stabbed me with the needle." She's like, "That's the only way I can hurt you." I was like, "Yeah, you're right."
He literally just sticks his finger through it like a toddler would.
Exactly. And then it's just like, oh, there's an island. Like, this is the part I was talking about the last chapter, where it's like, she's like, what? How the fuck are you? How do you survive? Like, you have no seamanship. You don't have food. You don't have water. You don't know how to sail. And then there's an island in the distance. Like, oh, I see an island. Maybe there's some people we can recruit to our crew there. And like, Nami's like, yeah, it's uninhabited. And then like takes the binoculars down, and they're rowing towards the boat. She's like, what the hell are you doing? But then they land on the island, and then they start seeing all these weird animals and thing, and then the disembodied voice is like, ooh, stay away. Spooky. And it's just like, go away. It's like, he's talking to him. It's like, are you pirates? It's like, yeah, we're pirates. And Nami's like, stop doing that. And then they're like, show yourself, and eventually he gets shot. And like, I love the line he does after that. It's like, wow, bullets can't even hurt you. It's like, yeah, I know, but guns still scare me. I don't like getting shot. And then they eventually find Gaemon, keeper of the island. The guy's stuck. He's basically a guy with a huge afro and beard stuck in a chest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And like we were saying, that's kind of like we were mentioning before, kind of leading up to it. It's like, oh, it's leading up to be something kind of big. Not really. But you learn his whole backstory. He was a pirate. He loved being a pirate. And I love the line where it's like, he's talking with him. He's like, yeah, it's like, I loved risking my life and limb for treasure. And like, Luffy's like, yeah, kind of fun, isn't it? Like, I like that part a lot. And then another part I really like, they're sitting there looking at the map, and it's like, oh, I got a map of the Grand Line. He's like, oh, you do? That's awesome. He's like, can you show me where it is? He's like, I can't read maps. And Luffy's like, me either. And they have a laugh about it, and Nami's like, dude, what the hell? But now we actually get a good panel that kind of shows us the world. Because I was talking like in our first or second episode where I didn't know, was it just scattered islands? Are there any major land masses? And now we see the red line is actually a large continent that splits the two seas. And we learn more about the geography, which I like that. Everything else in this chapter is kind of a little throwaway for me. But this was kind of the one point I was like, ooh, aha, nice. World building. I liked getting that reveal. And the Grand Line's called the Grand Lines because that's just the main way to pass through to get to, it's like the Panama Canal. But one piece. And then it kind of talks about, it's like everyone who went to the Grand Line came back. There's a hollow shell of a man, like kind of building up like horror mystery vibes for it, which it's like, hearing that, it's like, okay, now I want to see what the Grand Line looks like. I want to have some experience in there. But then you kind of get the rest of the chest guy's story. He was here looking for treasure, and then before he fell into the thing, he went to the top of this hill and saw 6 treasure chests and fell. And this more seems like it's more to like kind of paint Luffy's character as a kind-hearted soul. Because he's like, all right, I'll go get that treasure for you. He's like, finally, after 20 years, I get to see the treasure. He's like, all right, throw it down. Just don't hit us. Haha. And he's like, no, I don't feel like it. And Nami's like, what the fuck? But he instantly realizes, like, no, you're a good kid. You're a good kid. And Nami's like, what the hell? You've been waiting here for 20 years. Why don't you want the treasure? And he's like, they're all empty, aren't they? Luffy's like, yep.
Yeah, that was like the best part of this chapter.
Yeah, and after that, he's like, you know what? I like you a lot. You should come to the Grand. It's decided you're coming to the Grand Line with us. And he's like, oh, you want me on your crew? And then eventually he's like, you know what? No, I've been here for 20 years. I've come to love these crazy animals. Like we're talking a fox chicken, a lion pig, a rabbit snake. Weird shit. But then it's like, no, it's like, it turns out more people came here for these animals instead of the treasure. I feel like it'd be wrong for me to leave them here to just be taken advantage of. So he ultimately decides
that
to
feels
stay,
like a very Dylan thing to do.
It does.
Gaimon feels like a Dylan analog in some ways. I could see you getting stuck in a treasure chest and then just vibing with the animals.
Next cosplay idea.
Well, the thing
maybe?
is, like, when I
oh yeah,
when I do actually grow my hair out, it is a Bob Ross fro.
Exactly.
Like, it does poof way out.
You would that would be an amazing cosplay for you, Dylan.
I have to find a
100%. chest
large enough. It's gonna be a big old chest because I ain't put my knees up to my chest. I'm gonna be standing
you
in
can
that
just
bad
make
boy.
one out of a cardboard
make one
box.
for you.
Cosplay is about
Creativity.
adaptation, creativity.
Yeah.
You got this, Dylan.
Right. But yeah, that's pretty like I said, kind of short character kind of paints a little more back to like Luffy's character a little more.
Right. V, chapter 22.
Yes. So, I really enjoyed the way chapter 22 started. I feel like Nami fixing Luffy's hat and giving Zoro food actually says a lot about their relationship. Even though I feel like neither of them would like to admit it at this point, how much they kind of have started relying on each other. Because truthfully, she doesn't really need to do these things for them. She could decide to collaborate with them on a solely...
She's clearly done well on her own.
Right, like she could do it by herself. She could decide to collaborate with them solely on a professional level, but she's letting them into her life. And like I said, I'm not sure how much they realize that yet, but they've kind of snaked their way into each other's lives, and I think that's a really good sign for the future of this crew. Also, Dylan did mention that he mentioned something about the animals, and that is also something that I picked up on when reading that chapter. I really loved the introduction of some new fauna in there. For some reason, it was really unexpected for me. I had this picture in my mind that whatever fauna we have here on Earth in our world would be the same that they have in this universe, but it's not. And I thought that was super creative and fun, and it makes the world feel more unique and lived in, and like it's its own thing instead of it being maybe like an alternate reality of our own world. It feels like it's more its own thing. And that was nice and surprising. Also, yeah, Dylan did speak to that, but that is absolutely not what I expected when I was thinking about what a guardian of the forest would be. I had this picture in my mind of something like in Princess Mononoke, something that's, imposing and regal and powerful, and just, that would make everyone wonder, and like it'd be in total wonder at its presence. But no, it's a dude with a huge head of hair that just sits in a treasure chest.
He's just the guardian of like a forest.
Yeah, he's not the guardian of the forest. That's it. That's exactly it. He's maybe a guardian of a forest. On that note, there was a joke in there. Luffy says, "Are you a boxer?" And that just cracked me up.
Oh, that was great.
That "are you a boxer" joke just had me folded in half. And he looks so happy with himself. He's like sitting beside him with his legs crisscrossed, and he's like, "Are you a boxer?" I love that.
I love the part where it's just like, well, back in my... Wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's a stupid joke. Yeah, that was funny. I also really enjoyed, and Dylan mentioned that, the kind of little geography lesson that we got about what is the Grand Line and what has named this universe, and it kind of establishes or formalizes the world in which this story takes place. I feel like we were due for some world building on that end a little bit, and she did a really good job at it. It also helps put their endeavor in perspective. It makes you realize that it's actually a huge undertaking that they're going after. And then Luffy is completely oblivious to it, because right after that he says, all we have to do is sail around the world. Like, what do you mean? All we have to do is sail around the world. We have to sail around the world, Luffy. like, do you understand it?
I didn't even pick up on that, but yeah, it's another example of his naivety.
Absolutely. Just not realizing the scope of like what he's facing. And he's, like you said, Michael, he does do that. He's done it several times before, and I have a little bit of an idea that he might be doing that again in the future. And then Dylan spoke about Gaimon?
I call him Gaimon.
Gaimon's story.
I don't know about the S at the end, or it sounds like you're pluralizing it.
His story, Gaimon's story.
Oh,
yes, in that sense.
Possessive,
yes,
not plural.
Exactly. So at first I was thinking this guy has the most ridiculous backstory known to man. Like, this makes no sense. And I didn't think much of it beyond that, but I feel like it got very real real fast. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
and Dylan mentioned that, when he's talking about the treasure, just to me, the realization, like, to know that what you have been doing for the past 20 years has been completely useless must be such a blow to someone's just interpretation and meaning of life. And I feel like there's definitely a huge life lesson to be learned in there. And Dylan did mention that you also see how good of a guy Luffy is in that moment, because he does try to protect him from that moment of realization. And that was really powerful. Like, there's a shot there, like a panel of him, in the chest with tears flowing down his face, realizing that the chests are empty.
He says, You're a good kid.
And I thought it was a really powerful moment. And I guess to me, it gave a lot of depth to a character that would not have necessarily warranted it.
Right.
And, like, when we first are introduced to that character, I didn't think much would come of it, but it was very meaningful in the way that all of it unfolded. So, yeah, that's what I had for 22. Overall, a good chapter. I enjoyed it.
It's nice to get something that's kind of like a one-off here, We just got done with Buggy. We're really kind of figuring out this world of One Piece that's been presented in front of us, and this is a good way to kind of slip some in a really heartfelt way. When I first experienced One Piece, I thought Gaimon was kind of silly. On my second read through here, the moment lands well.
Yeah.
When Luffy, and I think Nami not really understanding what Luffy's really getting at here adds to it. She's just like, throw him the treasure or don't. What's going? Yeah.
Yeah, like, she doesn't realize she hasn't caught on to it. Meanwhile, Gaimon instantly picks up on it.
She's like, give the man his treasure, okay? He deserves his treasure. He wants it. I would want my treasure.
As a thief.
She's putting herself into
right.
Yeah. So let's see. I also wrote down something about Nami sewing up the straw hat. I said, what can't she do? That was my little notes. I also really liked when when Luffy picks up the snake and he's like, look at this funny, was it rabbit, I think? And Lummy's like, yeah, it is funny, but that's a snake, to me. Also, the pig with the lion's mane, Dylan, that reminds me of Rocky.
Yeah, I can see it.
That's Dylan's dog, Rocky.
If you were to put a lion's mane on Rocky, that is
he has
absolutely.
one.
I would need to see a picture of this.
Rocky loves his lion's mane, apparently.
He does.
Geography lesson. You guys both touched on it. But I triple underlined it. Yes, the world is many archipelagos split by one long line of continent, with the Grand Line kind of running between it. And we are currently in the East Blue. I wanted to just kind of highlight some of the stuff. I think both of you touched on this. I think the chapter may have even explained it. But there's 4 major seas: the East Blue, the South Blue, the North Blue, and the West Blue, the cardinal directions / blue. And while that's not the most important thing in the world, I did want to highlight it because it does come up from time to time. They're working on their way to the Grand Line, of course, from the East Blue. This entire everything we've read takes place in the East Blue, and that gave me the impetus to give you guys another important lore note. This is something you already know, but maybe haven't internalized or picked up on. But around 20-some years since this all takes place, some 20-some years since the beginning of the Great Pirate Era, when Gold D. Rogers was executed, the One Piece is supposedly the treasure that he left behind for whoever to find. I just felt with the explanation of the geography here that note fit in nicely. Yeah, so the chests are empty, heartfelt moment, a really good one-off chapter. Did either of you think Gaimon had any possibility of joining the crew? I don't think I was under any such.
I feel like I had maybe an inkling that, like, I don't know, I feel like I thought of it for a fleeting moment and then realized that I didn't think they would bring it there. I didn't think the story would carry him there. But for a moment, I thought maybe he's going to join them. But I didn't think it was of any substance, really.
Yeah, honestly, what purpose would he serve, honestly? It's kind of what I was thinking. It's like, they'll offer, but it's not going to be useful.
Could be a decoy treasure chest to try to lure people in.
That's his whole... What? V, have you seen Rick and Morty?
No, only a couple episodes.
There's a line where they're talking to a little robot that Rick built. It's like, what is your purpose? And he's like, I spread butter.
I have seen that episode. Yeah.
Yes.
His purpose would be to be the treasure chest.
To be a decoy treasure chest in the handful of moments they may need one. Last little bit here. Funny line. I think it was Luffy said, another 30 years and your whole life would have passed you by. That hit funny, but also like, oh, yeah.
Is it because we're old?
Life is marching onwards to a end point. But yeah, that's all I got for chapter 22. You guys nailed it on that. Good call-outs on the geography. And V, 23 is yours.
Yeah, so I didn't have much for chapter 23. I feel like it was kind of the beginning of a new section of the story. This is obviously the chapter in which we are introduced to Usopp, but I will get to him a little bit later. Just at the very beginning of the of this chapter, I feel like as much as I'd like to think I'm like Nami in some ways, I'm definitely a lot like Luffy and Zoro too, in that I am very food and booze motivated. I can't help it. I like the good things in life, and seeing them be like super excited that they're gonna get to eat meat. Like the first few, like the 2 first pages are all about how thirsty and hungry they are, and I was like, I feel that, boys. I get it. And then we're introduced to Usopp, and further down like throughout the volume we find out more and more about this character, but my very first impressions of him were I feel like this guy looks familiar to me, but not for the reasons that you might think. And like I said, I will get back to that when we speak about the other chapters a bit later on. One of my first impressions about him and his little group of pirates is, well, first of all, the names of the kids that follow him around: Carrot, Pepper, and Onion. I was like, are we making a soup?
Yeah, make a good soup.
Exactly. And I thought it was like weirdly super cute names, but it definitely gave me a little bit of a chuckle. And the way that they're drawn is adorable. I thought they were really, really cute. Cute little kiddos. And
Onion reminds me of Dylan.
Let me just... Yes, he does.
You know what? I think I take offense at that.
But he's so cute. And yeah, I feel like my very first instinct when dealing with Usopp, again, not to kind of dive into what unfolds throughout the rest of the volume, is he does not seem like the most trustworthy person. I don't know that he's a bad person per se, but I wouldn't trust him to honestly tell me where his nose is on his own face. Like, this is absolutely a case of, like, I knew in that moment that this was going to come back and bite him in the ass. Again, not to foreshadow, but I was like, this is 100%.
You can foreshadow at this point.
Yeah,
we know what's coming.
It was absolutely a moment of, oh, this is a boy who cried wolf thing. I already knew it from the get-go.
Yep.
When he's there and he's laughing at, oh, it's so funny. I managed to fool these dumb villagers. Ha ha ha. I was like, man, you gotta be careful with that. But yeah, other than that, I didn't have much for chapter 23. I think it was really, really a lot more of an introductory chapter to what is to come, basically. Just kind of laying out the foundation of the rest of this volume.
A new island. Yeah.
That's all I had for chapter 23.
All right, I'm next. I also opened with always with the food and the booze.
My boys.
Always. It's I get it. I do. Pointed out that we get some new characters. We get Usopp and the Usopp Pirates crew. Now, this is where my opinion on the volume starts to sour a bit. I think we're introduced to some good characters. I think the world that's built around this is fine. The island's fine, but what we're really seeing here is a Boy Who Cried Wolf story played out. It's a story that we've all seen 100 times. In fact, it's one that's like, there are other like stereotypical stories that I think are even that would just be better than a Boy Who Cried Wolf story. I don't know how to explain it other than that.
Seems kind of lazy a little bit.
Do you feel like it's...
Yeah, it does.
Do you guys feel like it's overdone?
So I would say it's so cliche that at this point maybe it's even underdone, but also they don't need to do it. No one needs to do a Boy Who Cried Wolf story. And this one's so on the nose with it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It is my critical opinion that this arc that we're on here on this island is one of the weaker ones of the entire East Blue saga, which is an entire saga comprising multiple volumes here that we're in the middle of. I don't think that's a spoiler, is it? Would you guys?
I wouldn't say so, no. I don't know enough going forward.
Okay. Yeah. I think that this is one of the weaker arcs that we're going to get. Again, introduces good characters, introduces some fine tension as it builds to the final conclusion. But it just had some funny moments that I'm going to point out here. One that really stuck out to me was when the Straw Hats land and Zoro's like, so what's up with, and then it has another panel, those guys.
That was great.
He just points at, like, they think they're hiding, but he points them out right away. That's very funny. And it's also funny when Luffy's talking about gathering a crew and Usopp offers to be captain. Like, slow your roll.
We just met, dude.
Yeah, like your pirate crew is 3 children. Okay.
Named after soup ingredients. Just let's be clear.
You can also use those ingredients for other things. But yeah, just to kind of summarize, this chapter it has a good start to the arc, but it lacks character, and it really plays off of some deep cliched storylines, which it's quick. And yeah, that's all I got. Dylan?
I mean, you guys kind of hit, again, simple chapter. You guys hit pretty much all the points. My first impression of Usopp is like, God, this guy's a little turd. I fucking can't stand him. Because it's kind of like going through school. Everybody had their compulsive bullshitter. It's like, dude, no one believes it, and everyone just like, it's so annoying. Everyone just wants to kick your ass. Like, it's like,
I had a guy tell me he beat Final Fantasy VII 20 times. Like, no, you did. Nobody under the age of 20 is beating that game. Anyway.
It's just like, and that just it's like, oh, you're so annoying. And it's just like being like, oh yeah, I'll be your captain. It's like, bruh, like, read the room, sit the fuck down.
No, you're not. You're not gonna be the captain. Sit down. Just sit down.
It's just, but yeah, I mean, it's starting to building a little bit more. And just the whole false bravado. It's just like, I'm such a fierce pirate. And it's like, I've got 80, and like, I like the part where he was talking. It's like, yeah, it's like, I got 80 million men. And now he's like, no, you don't. Just like, oh my God, you saw right through me. It's like, oh shit, I should have told her I was lying. It's like, you've got no spine, dude. Like, but yeah, I mean, we touched on all the really big points. And I also like Nami at the point where it's like, oh, you can ask this person for it. She's like, fuck it, no, let's leave. We're not getting a boat here. Let's just cut our losses and get out of here. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for that chapter.
Right, yeah, it does seem a little off the cuff to walk into a town and ask one of the local rich folk for a boat. But, yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll start chapter 24 here. I loved the bit about eating Usopp meat. The little kids were horrified, and it reminds me of a story. I didn't eat ketchup for years because in elementary school, they had like a little elementary school haunted house, and they did ketchup on French fries and called them fingers and blood or something. I don't remember the exact details, but I walked out of that haunted house upon seeing that and didn't eat ketchup until I was almost an adult, I think.
Childhood trauma.
Right? It comes from the weirdest places. Sometimes it comes from very serious places, but that one was a silly one. Yeah, Usopp being a liar, like, the kids really are into it. I think he may be a bad influence on the
show. He is.
Maybe?
He definitely. Also, this chapter kind of puts a little spin on it. It does try to frame his boy who cried wolf narrative as someone who's trying to have fun, and he wants other people to have fun, but clearly no one's having fun with you, my brother, here. Like, Luffy gets it, but he's the only one. This isn't a fun thing. I wrote down, give me ship, give now, please. You can't just go to town begging for a ship, which we kind of just touched on a little bit. We get a nice emotional wrap-up to it. I thought the confrontation between Usopp and Klahadore, soon to be known as Captain Kuro, is good. It's a proper introduction to the misguided Usopp and the conflict that we're starting to build to. Again, all my criticisms stay the same, and I don't think they're going to change throughout the rest of this volume. I think they're, again, good characters. Weird setup for them, but yeah, that's all I got for chapter 24. Nothing too crazy. Dylan?
I mean, you brought it up, but like one of my favorite points, like the kids are all outside. It's like, oh, what if they ate them? It's like, oh, the only people who eat anybody are like ogres and everything. And then, and then he brings it up, and it's just like it got gobbled up. And they all look at Nami and they're like, ogres! She's like, why the fuck are you looking at me like that? And then she's like, it's not funny!
Because the way she's drawn in that panel, she has like the wide open mouth and the teeth, and she kind of does look like an ogress.
And then like it kind of like, you get a little, the kids kind of touch a little bit on like the whole moral dilemma kind of thing with Usopp. Because they're starting to talk about the sickly girl. And it's like, what is it?
Yeah, I didn't even touch on Kaya.
What's he do when he goes there? It's like, oh, he goes there to tell lies. Like, that's not nice. It's like, no, it's actually really nice. And it's like, what? No, you're telling lies. Like, no, it's not.
I know I love being lied to when I'm sick.
Like, huh? But then, I mean, later in the thing, it's like you see his lies are just goofy tales to brighten her mood because she's sickly. And it's starting to make it's like, okay, Usopp's a piece of shit, but at least he's kind of like a little kind-hearted. He's not completely self-absorbed. Which, although I think he kind of is.
I wonder if there's not some self-absorption, if there's some kind of enrichment in him associating with Kaya, maybe. Like, maybe he's trying to get something out of it. I
don't think it's anything like material gains, but it's more like, it's kind of like, desperate, like influence is just desperate for, like, the attention. And it's like, he's kind of like weaning off the fact that she has no one else to go to. And is using that to feed his ego. In a weird sense. But yeah, it's kind of cool. And then you start to learn, you learn that Usopp's father was a pirate. And the thing is,
that was next chapter.
Well, no, he starts talking about
he says
this chapter.
Yeah. Does he? He's proud that his father is a pirate.
And I will say for the butler, I've been calling him Cladore. I don't know.
That's close enough.
It's funny to say.
You can call him Kuro if you want.
But yeah, then he swings out, and Cladore's baiting him perfectly. It's just like he's like getting mad, and then he swings. He's like, look, see, his first reaction is to resort to violence. You shouldn't be around these kind of people.
You got a point.
That's pretty much all I got in the chapter.
Right on. V?
Yeah, so you guys touched on pretty much everything. I do have a little bit of additional insight for you guys. So one thing I noticed with the whole, the scene at the beginning with the kids, as the dedicated Zoro fangirl, I have something to say about that. I didn't really take Zoro for much of a prankster, but I loved seeing that side of him with the kids when he says that he's been gobbled up.
He's loving it in that frame.
And I feel like it helps humanize the character a little bit. Like, that he's not just this, like, mysterious man of fabled skill. He's actually just kind of a guy, too.
He's a dude.
He's definitely a dude. Bro. And I love him even more for it. Oh, I love him so much. I'm gonna get a t-shirt with Zoro's face on it. Like, I'll get there.
I'll buy you one.
Please do. Yeah. So I had a little bit of a fangirl moment there.
And then never.
I swear.
V, if you are still a Zoro fangirl by the end of the East Blue Saga, I will buy you a Zoro t-shirt of my choice. And I'm not saying that anything's going to significantly change, but you know, if you haven't moved on to any other characters or anything, I got you.
We'll see. Yeah, and then we are introduced to the butler. I looked at the way they spelled his name, and I was like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to say that. Clahador. Let's go with that. I could tell how far the stick is up the butler's ass just by the way he's drawn, and we do find out that it's a ruse. But I noticed also, like, his mannerisms, the way he pushes his glasses up with the heels of his hands, to me was
what a
very distinctive thing, like very kind of like neurotic trait, and
like an every OCD tick.
Yeah, a little. Exactly. It felt a little OCD, and that's why I was thinking, like, man, this guy is really wound up. Because every single frame that you see him pushing his glasses up, it's with the heel of his hands, and I found that so strange for some reason.
Well, I love that because everything is like he's doing one, he's doing the other hand, he's doing one hand, he's doing the other hand, and there's just the one frame where he's using both his hands.
He's doing
what the fuck's going on?
I didn't even pick up on that. Wow. Kudos to you for that catch.
Thanks, I guess.
You're so good.
Thank you. And I have thoughts about Usopp and what he does for Kaya. I can appreciate what he does for Kaya, but part of me actually feels a little bit sad. And I think it's because Dylan kind of touched on it. For me, this sense of lying from him comes to me, it feels like it comes from he has the need to lie like this because that's the only thing that makes him worth talking to. I feel like he feels like people won't enjoy his presence if they find out how boring or normal he is. I think he's enhancing himself because I think he has self-confidence issues.
That's another great God, P.
And I'll be like fully honest with you guys. When I was a child, I got bullied really bad. And one of my defense mechanisms was lying. And I would lie to make myself more interesting to my peers. I managed to make my peers believe that I was born in Egypt, and I'm not fucking with you. Because I thought I was so boring and uninteresting the way I was that I felt the need to lie to people. And in that moment, when that happens with Usopp, that's exactly where my brain went. I was like, I feel that. And I've stopped, and now I pride myself on how honest and open I am. I've not uttered a lie since like my late teens or early 20s. And when it heavily resonated with me in that moment. And I was like, man, I feel like this guy has such a poor a sense of self-love and self-esteem that's how he deals with it. And maybe that comes from like having felt abandoned by his dad, or like I'm not sure exactly where those issues come from, but that's exactly where my brain went. That's how I read into that.
Those are some hot takes.
I kind of went on a tangent there. I'm sorry. I had a lot to say about that.
Love it.
Yeah, there was a moment in there also. There's a moment in there where Luffy is kind of being told that he's now part of someone else's crew. And he has a like, wait a minute, that's not right. He has like this like, what the fuck do you mean moment? And I thought that it was really funny and ironic because he's been doing that to other people. Like, all of a sudden, you're part of my crew. Yeah. And then he's being told the same thing. And he's like, hey, wait a minute. That's not...
At first he says, yeah.
And then he's like, wait a minute. Yeah, exactly. I thought that was a little bit of a taste of his own medicine, so to speak. And then, yeah, when the butler is provoking, and eventually Usopp just punches him right in the face, and I'm like, he deserved that. Like, he didn't need to be so cruel to Usopp in that moment. And yeah, we end on a little cliffhanger of like Luffy knows who his father is, and then I'll speak to that a bit later when we find out who his father is, but it didn't go the way I expected to. And you guys might think I'm absolutely stupid for having thought what I did, but we'll get to that. And that's all I had for chapter 24. I actually had a lot for chapter 24. I'm sorry. I feel like I rambled.
No, you're fine. You're fine. More rambling is better than less rambling.
Right.
Dylan?
Starting 24?
25. Yeah.
Yes.
You got 25.
Yeah, that's more, it's kind of like it comes to the conclusion of that, and then he's still goading him. And he's like, oh, brave warrior of the sea, I see you like doing your lying again. He's a filthy pirate, and he left you behind. And then eventually, she's such a minor character, I haven't bothered committing her name to memory. The sickly girl, Kaya, was just like, stop it, you're going way too far. And then he's getting ready to, like, pull up and hit him again, and she's like, stop, no, like, no more violence, please. I think it's hilarious. The kids are just like, you're a butthead. And I was like, yeah. And then, like, Luffy comes in, like, joins in, and I was like, yeah, you're stupid poopy pants, or something like that. And then freaking Zolo's just, like, hits in the back of the head. It's like, come on, dude, you two, you're an adult. Grow up. And then eventually comes down to the point where, like, he's asking who has business there and everything. Kind of Keldor spinning his own tale. It says he was marooned. It's kind of like lying without fully lying, like telling a half-truth. It's like, oh, yeah, I was marooned 3 years ago when your dad took me in, and I feel obligated to protect you. And I know you like him, but he's not good for you. You need to stop seeing Usopp. And then, I love what the Django the Hypnotist. Like, shortly after that, we get introduced to Django the Hypnotist. And it is such, like, it's a Michael Jackson riff. 100% is a Michael Jackson. Like,
There's nothing about him that does not scream Michael
Jackson. I had that in my notes also.
At first, it was like, okay, it's just a weird dude. And then I went back and actually looked at the costumes. Like, wait, the hat, the gloves. Oh shit! The shoes and the way the fucking socks are done. Okay, that's definitely Michael Jackson. And I love the fact that every time he puts people to sleep, he also puts himself to sleep. I found that hilarious. I was just like, okay,
what a great hypnotist,
best in his class. But then you actually get to like, after this, Luffy and Usopp have a moment. It's like, oh yeah, I knew who your dad was. Usopp, real original.
Usopp.
And it's like, oh yeah, it was a great shot. And it's like, hey, sailed with red-haired Shanks. Red-haired Shanks actually a phenomenal pirate. And it kind of reaffirmed how Usopp felt about it. As far as like, no, yeah, my father was a great pirate and he is a good man. Thank you. And then this is where you get to see it's like, or kind of end of the cliffhanger is kind of the reveal. It's like he's talking to the hypnotist and they're kind of spying on him. The hypnotist has got no tact. It's like, oh yeah, plan murder Kaya and take over the village is a go. And it's like, don't fucking call it murder, dude. What the fuck are you doing? That's illegal.
Assassinate.
Yeah. And
make it diplomatic.
And that's when it kind of hits them. Oh, and then you get that little cliffhanger there. So, I mean, it's kind of putting some more meat to the story. I still feel like the Boy Who Cried Wolf, which we're not. Well, I mean, a spoiler alert, I guess, but we're gonna see that really in effect next chapter. But I gotta agree with you. Where it's like the whole Boy Who Cried Wolf thing. It's like it feels,
seen it before.
feels a little lazy. I get why you would. It makes sense with how you're putting the story out, but like a little overplayed, I guess. But that's all I really got in this chapter.
All right, I believe V.
Yeah. I didn't have a whole lot for chapter 25. You know, at the time, I hadn't realized the twist that was lining up for us. But my initial notes were, I kind of appreciated getting a bit more of the backstory, quote unquote, air quotes. I'm doing air quotes, listeners. Quote unquote backstory on the butler. But I was like, my key takeaway was he's still kind of a twat, to be honest. Like even with that backstory, he's still kind of a dick. So, yeah. And Dylan said it, the introduction of Django. I wrote literally my notes say Django equals Michael Jackson on acid.
I like the on acid part.
And I was going to say that he's talentless on top of that, but he does manage to hypnotize himself. He doesn't hypnotize the others, just himself.
He hypnotizes the one person who's probably the easiest to hypnotize in the whole world.
Right. So not necessarily the greatest at his craft, so to speak. And yeah, so the moment of the twist where we find out who Usopp's father is was absolutely not what I expected. I'll tell you, I was thinking Gaimon had a kid before he got stuck on the island.
I could see that with the hair. I was
thinking the hair.
I could see it with the hair, yeah.
The hair and the kind of like the way the eyes or the brow has been drawn. I was like, is that Gaimon's kid? But no, it was actually one of the pirates of Red-Haired Shanks, and I was like, oh, well, I'm a dumbass. But like, you can see it. You can see it a little bit, right? But yeah. Aside from that, I really didn't have much for chapter 25 other than the gasping cliffhanger at the end of murder Miss Kaya with the zoom in on the face and all of that. Yeah, that's about it. Didn't have much.
I will wrap chapter 25 up, and I'm actually going to take it in reverse here because I'm gonna end it with what I think is an interesting question. We'll see. So the cliffhanger again feels a little cheap here because they're just listening in, and the bad guy's like, "You mean Operation Murder Miss Kaya?" And then the other guy's like, "Shut up." But yeah, I didn't think that the payoff was there. I didn't think it was earned, I guess, the cliffhanger. It's not a cliffhanger. The twist, I guess. Yeah. I don't think it was earned here. They're just listening in, and well, there's the butler that we just got into tiff with, and there's some weird guy, and they're gonna cause conflict. So, yeah, I rolled my eyes a little bit at that. I think the next chapter does a pretty good job of bringing me back on board. But we get a little info dump on some more red-haired pirates lore. They're leaving their mark all over the East Blue, or at least everywhere we've been so far. And, I mean, we see Yasopp, and he essentially abandoned his son to go pirating, and his son still respects and worships him.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, fights for him. Like, this guy's not winning Father of the Year, but I think Usopp would vote for him.
Only vote he gets.
Love the introduction of Django. Just sillier than Buggy, maybe, in many ways.
So ridiculous. Right?
I liked the shot of Zoro, Nami, and the Usopp pirates just all hanging out together, just like waiting for whatever's next, and then that Django walking through. So, my question is, was the butler, Clahodor, was he completely out of line here? Barring the twist at the end, let's say you don't know that, and you are assuming that he is a butler trying to take care of the sickly girl. I think he's doing his job. I think that it's not unreasonable to see Usopp as a toxic person. I don't think it's unreasonable to feel a little protective over the girl who your, job is to protect. And yeah, I'd love to hear from both of you on this. Like, am I way off base there?
That's a really good question.
Be kinder about it.
For me, I think what you said, the word you use tells everything for me, because you use the word overprotective. And I feel like there's something to be said about the over part of it. I think he would be justified in being protective, but to the extent that he is dictating the people that she should speak to and spend time with, I personally have a problem with. I don't think that is his to decide. I don't think that is his. I think he can certainly be an advisor. He can certainly, speak to that, express concern, but to the point of forbidding someone to talk to someone else or to isolate them. And even if it was true, he is, in essence, isolating her and not keeping her hostage exactly, but kind of. He's cutting away the one contact that she has and the one friend that still comes over and sees her and decides to spend time with her. So I understand that he would want to, like I said, kind of take the role of the advisor and caution her against, believing everything he says and whatnot. But to the extent that he does it, I would say that he is overstepping his boundaries, personally.
Dylan?
Well, because I'm looking at it the way where, like, Kaya's family is probably a prominent name. I mean, you own a mansion, it might be some political kind of thing, and that's kind of like that half-truth story he had about, like, he took me in, I honor him so much. If that were really the case, I'd say no. Because if you are a prominent name and, like, some form of political power or anything like that, associating with a violent liar could be the death of your career. I mean, it's not something you like to hear, but if it's something that's going to, like, potentially tank your future, which is a household butler, that would be his whole goal. It's like, it's gonna smudge the family name. That's one thing we can't have. So I think with that information that was presented at that time, he was being an asshole, yeah, but it's like, hey, no, like, it's not going to go well for the family name if you keep this up. You got to stop.
I have a counterpoint to that. Does Alfred ever ever forbid Bruce Wayne from doing anything? He advises him. He tells him what he thinks. He says, I don't think you should be doing that. I don't think you should be, putting yourself in harm's way like this, or I don't think you should be going at it like that. He advises, but does he forbid? He does not.
Well, Bruce Wayne's an adult. And the actual head of the family at that time, so...
Right, because his parents are dead. R.I.P. Yeah, and it is hard to say because we don't know much about the family background really. But yeah, I get what you're saying, Dylan, but it's still kind of it kind of irks me a little bit.
I know, I'm not saying it's morally right or anything like that, but in that context, it's like, no, I understand why he would.
There's complexity in this topic that they could have harnessed on rather than just Operation Murder Miss Kaya is a go.
Right?
Thundercats. One last thing for chapter 25, because I actually wrote a little blurb. This chapter introduces the conflict underpinning the arc in a very ham-fisted way. We get to know Usopp and his backstory, and I feel like that was done well. Django is a cool character. That's what I ended.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's it for 25. V, go ahead and start chapter 26 for me.
Starting us off on the end.
Yeah.
The beginning of the end. So it's funny that you, Michael, you said, I could see the twist coming a mile away. And I sort of had a gut feeling that this butler was up to no good, but I have to admit, the twist got me. I had a little, moment. I think I audibly gasped when I realized, the twist. And I enjoyed the way they presented it. I have to say, I gotta love the idea of a long con pirate. Because it goes so against anything I think about when I think of pirates. In my mind, pirates seek instant gratification. But this kind of shows some devotion to the craft from Kuro. It's a completely different approach to get, it's a big investment for potentially really high reward. And I feel like that's not something I feel like in general pirates are too impulsive to go for something like that. And I was like, damn, I kind of get it. Not to say that I would con anyone or be a con artist, but I was like, man, that's one way to go about it, which I had not considered whatsoever when thinking about pirates. Yeah, so that's definitely one thing that I think that helped in salvaging the twist, because I understand that it might, even though it got me, I understand how it could have been seen as a cheap twist, but I feel like that aspect of it and seeing really how deep he went into that long con kind of supported the payoff for me. And then we have another typical Luffy moment. Luffy kind of half listening to the conversation and then just giving away that they're listening in on it almost immediately afterwards was such a Luffy moment. And I was like, oh my god, Luffy, shut the fuck up. All the while not expecting anything different from him at this point. That is absolutely what else would you expect? Really. And then then obviously we get kind of the whole boy who cried. Sorry, he cried wolf. The whole boy who cried wolf thing, the climax, so to speak, of this morally heavy tale. I knew in my soul that this was going to come back and bite Usopp in the ass. It did. I feel like most kids learn that lesson at some point, but this is a very harsh way to find that out. It's very high stakes, But yeah, it was very predictable in that way. They build it up from the moment that you meet the character to the end where this is all kind of coming together. It was going to happen. My thoughts on it, do I like it? I don't know, but that was the only conclusion to it with the way that they started it. There was no, I don't see how they could have made that happen differently with the way that they built on it and the way that they laid that foundation. And then, we're introduced to this new crew of pirates, Kuro's pirates. I'm not sure how they're called. I really like their
I think it says it in the last, I could have sworn.
I didn't see it.
Well, he refers to his pirates as my sea wolves.
Yeah, I see sea wolves. And then the flag has the little ears on top. So I kind of presume the sea wolves. And I have to say, I kind of love the little wolf ears on the pirate flag and on the pirates themselves. I thought that was really cute. I know it's weird to say for pirates, but I thought the little ears were really cute. But yeah, and then, we're left wondering with Kaya being like, where is he? Where's my butler? And I'm very eager to find out how that ends up and what her reaction is should she find out what happens and who that person is, a person that she has trusted deeply for years. I cannot imagine that is going to go well. I think we're going to be faced with a lot of heartache, possibly, and betrayal. And I'm kind of dreading it, but I'm also excited at the same time. So, yeah. That's what I had for chapter 26.
Yeah, I think this picks up a lot of the disappointment. Maybe disappointment's a strong word, but just the expected beats of the previous chapter and the volume as a whole. You get to see that there is a long con here, that it's not just silly nonsense on the fly. 3 years is a long time for a pirate to plan something like this.
Commitment.
At first, right? Yeah, at first in my notes, I was like, maybe those 3 years could have been put to better use. Maybe there's more money in 3 years of pillage and plunder than there is in this lady's family. I don't know. But then it's revealed that it's part of his plan to go legit, which that's a loyal crew. If they're willing to spend 3 years without their captain, I think I would have picked a new captain and just moved on to the next haul. Agree, disagree?
Well, I mean, he brings it up when he's talking to him. It's like when he calls him Kuro, he's like, don't call me that anymore. I gave that name up. You're the captain now. So I think at that point, Django is just the interim captain.
Yeah. But hell of a crew to stick around for all that. You'd see Luffy's bravado where he just stands up, tells him, don't kill. He literally says, don't kill Kaya. Okay. We're still going to.
They watch me.
He's still gonna do it.
He gets hypnotized, and again, this is where the chapter kind of feels cheap. He gets hypnotized, and he falls down, and they're like, don't even bother checking him. He's dead. He's so dead. He fell off a cliff. He was hypnotized. Don't even worry about it. That Usopp, though, he's running. No one's going to believe him. And, yeah, I wrote here, this chapter continues the momentum building to the conflict. I think it does it well, better than it had been. Some odd choices along the way, but I like where we're going overall. So, Dylan, wrap things up on chapter 26.
Well, yeah, I mean, you guys, we hit a lot of the big points already. The thing is, why not check on him? It's he did fall from 40 feet up straight onto his neck, and not knowing that he's a rubber man, I would probably assume somebody was dead too.
But I would have checked on him. I would have,
put a bullet in his head.
Unless I see brains on the ground or a couple of bones jutting out, I'm checking. If I want someone dead, which I don't, by the way, but if I were,
oh, that's true. We did watch Midsummer, and it's kind of I should be expecting some of that. But one
of them's got to have a gun.
What kind of pirates don't have guns? But there's a couple other points here. I like kind of as Usopp's running back to the village, he has a flashback of his first interaction with Kaya. And she's like, who are you? And he's like, well, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm such a brave warrior of the sea. I heard you're not feeling well. I'm here to cheer you up. And she's like, it's none of your business. Leave or I'll have somebody show you out. And he's just like, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just a busybody. And it's like, the first time he's ever fucking honest. Cool.
That's true.
And I also like the part when he goes sprinting past the rest of the crew. Nami's just like, he's probably still all ass mad about what the butler said about his dad. The kids are like, I don't know, something feels wrong. The hypnotist was down there too. And then instantly Zolo, it clicks. He's like, fuck, Luffy got himself in trouble. Where's the beach?
Because he's so perceptive and smart and handsome and perfect.
He's just a full package.
Yeah. And then, of course, he gets to town, starts doing his thing, and everybody's like, God, Brad's line again. I love the line where it's like, again, during lunch, he's overdoing it lately. He's got to cut it out.
Right? They're so sick of it.
And a panel that's great to me is when they're all going out to confront him and be like, stop. There's the one panel where the guy's rolling his sleeve up. In the back of my head, it's like, how many times are we going to teach you this lesson, old man? And that just jumped out to me. I was like, that's hilarious. But, and the one thing is finding out that I like this when you find out Kuro is a long con pirate, all the heel touching with the glasses and the OCD ticks make a lot of sense. It's like, oh, this motherfucker's very meticulous about everything he does, and that's why he has these ticks. And I was like, okay, I like that little depth to this character you give him. It makes a little sense.
B pointed that out.
It's true, because now I'm looking at one of the last panels, and he's doing it while he's still speaking to his crew. So you know that it's not just his it's not just a character. That's just part of he's neurotic. Like, as a person, as a pirate, he's neurotic, which is again very strange for a pirate.
You'll see a little bit more as to why he does it in the next volume. Ooh, yeah. There's some depth there,
but I think
I never would have.
I think I overall agree with your kind of take on the last part of the volume. Just, I don't know. I mean, Usopp doesn't seem to be like a terrible character. It's just, I don't know, the way he was introduced, like the whole story. It seems like they're trying to like shoehorn in a story for him. That's kind of what it feels like, and it's like, but not a bad volume overall.
Would you agree that it does a good job of picking up, at least in some ways, some of the places where it kind of falls flat, at least with the characters and stuff that it introduces? At least that's where I stand on it.
I mean, like I just mentioned with the Kuro thing, that was kind of like, okay, I'm starting to see some depth to the back. I like that.
Did you like Django?
Django was just funny. Django doesn't seem to be a huge thing, but it's just a funny character. And it's the Michael. Oh, he's a backwards man. It's like, yeah, because he's Michael Jackson. He's moonwalking. Hilarious.
Great bit. All right. Well, thank you, Dylan. Do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Nah, that's all I got on that one.
All right. So we did it. We got a third volume under our belt. And let's go ahead and just talk about the volume as a whole, from Buggy to Shanks to Gaimon all the way to Usopp. And I think this place is called Syrup Island. They don't talk about the names, but they do technically have names behind the scenes. So I'm going to go ahead and I actually wrote another little blurb for this. I want to make sure I was extra prepared. So I said Volume 2 had some good action and some good story beats. It missed a couple times, but I think overall it did a decent job at developing the world around it. Some of the high parts for me were the Shanks lore dump with the Buggy, as well as the Yasop one, and the Buggy fight. I thought the Buggy fight was an incredible action sequence. I liked the breakdown of the world map and the emotional moments of Gaimon's treasure reveal, as well as Klahadore, a.k.a. Captain Kuro, his argument and fight with Usopp. I thought that was a decent emotional beat. The first half of the volume really shined for me. I thought the wrapping up of the fight with Buggy, Nami tying up Buggy, getting all that, and even the excursion to Gaimon's island really highlighted this chapter and really picked it up from the places where the second half kind of fell a little flat for me. Again, I don't think it's bad. I think the second half of Volume 3 is good, not great. And I think I might have said Volume 2 at some point, but
you did when you did. You said Volume 2, but it's fine.
But yeah, those were my overarching thoughts. Dylan, we'll pass it to you for seconds here.
Yeah, everything involving Buggy, amazing. All the chapters that had Buggy in it were great. The fight scene was phenomenal. All the background information between him and Shanks, great. The Gaimon Island thing was a little weird, but it didn't realize before it was revealed how much I needed to see the map to understand the world. Because before that, it's like, I don't really know what's going on. I guess it made me understand why they just float around, because why not? What's the world anyways? So getting the map reveal on that was like a huge aha moment for me. That was something I really needed to kind of tie me into the world a little more. And then I'm kind of on the same page with you, for the last part. It's a little flat, just because the whole boy cried wolf thing, a little overdone. Some of the character development in that being said, was still really good. Like all the bits I mentioned about Claudore Kuro, seeing like picking up the OCD thing, and then saying, oh, it's because he's a long con guy, it's what he does, made a lot of sense. And then kind of seeing some of Usopp's background and saying he's kind of a good guy. I mean, he's a piece of shit for lying all the time. But overall, I'd say it was a decent volume. all things considered. Start was phenomenal. Middle part was like, all right, I got some stuff I needed. And the last part was a little meh. That's all I got.
100% agree. V?
I think I'm kind of realizing how much there was in this volume. Like, we're getting the whole end of one, saga, a little bit of a filler, a good filler, I will say, but a little bit of a filler nonetheless with the Guardian of the Forest excursion, and then picking up something new, right? That has not finished, because we're probably going to see how that ends in the next volume. But I feel like it was a lot. There was a lot packed in that volume. To the point, like, when you're reading chapter 26 as opposed to when you start at chapter 18, like, so much happens in between those two chapters within one single volume. I think I liked it. Like, I know that there's some criticisms to be had here, and I know that the way that they brought about certain themes, maybe it was a little clunky or on the nose or a little stereotypical, but I kind of liked it. Like, I guess part of me has a bit of a soft spot for cliches like that. I think it's we have these legendary tropes that are repeated throughout history, that will continue to be repeated throughout history for eons on end. And the story of the boy who cried wolf is one of them. And I feel like, considering how large of a story One Piece is, it was going to come up at some point. Now, did they do it in the best way possible? Probably not. But I didn't dislike it. I actually kind of liked it. Oh, man. I think I like One Piece, guys. I think I like it.
Oh, just wait for chapter 400.
Like, with the criticism I had, like necessarily it being the boy who cried wolf isn't too bad. It's the fact that they literally just took wolf out and put in pirate. My issue. It was like, if it was just like he gets caught in all these lies all the time where people no longer believe him.
He's literally running through the town screaming the word.
Right. Yeah. And I get that there are moments in the telling of that story that are very on the nose, but I feel like everything else that is kind of woven through it helps redeem it. And it helps it make it more digestible, and it helps it make it more entertain. It's like I forget, not that I forget the core story that they're trying to tell, but there's so much else going on that I focus on it less. With, Kuro and Kaya's story and, finding out who Usopp's dad is and all of that, it made it a little bit richer than if they hadn't gone through the effort of, like I said, weaving all of those other story elements through it. But like I said, they probably could have done it differently and better. But I liked it. I still liked it. And it made me very, very much looking forward to finding out what comes afterwards. I want to know what happens with Usopp. I want to know if he joins the crew. I want to know if he finds his dad. I want to know what happens with Kuro and the pirates. I want to know what happens when the reveal of, like, oh, Luffy's actually not dead, because obviously he's not dead. I want to know what happens when Kaya finds out. I'm so eager now. And I feel like they built it up well for what's next. So while there are certainly some shortcomings in the way that they told the story, I think they still kind of did a justice for the purpose that it's meant to have in the telling of the story.
Very fair points. I think you made a lot of sense.
I do that sometimes, but only sometimes.
Yeah, it's weird.
Nope, you're wrong. It's shit.
I'm kidding.
Well, okay, well, I'm leaving. Goodbye. It's going to be the Dylan and Michael show now.
I'm kidding. But no, I agree with you. I am still very much looking forward to see how the Kuro thing plays out.
Yeah,
they like I said, like my critique was the whole took out Wolf, put in Pirate. but the building of the characters they did amongst that was very well done. I still think it's just.
I just want to make sure that we give credit where credit is due, even though there are criticisms to be had. That's all.
No, I appreciate the perspective. Did you have anything else you wanted to add here?
That's all I had.
So let me ask you guys. Oh, Dylan, anything else for you?
No, that's it.
So let me ask you guys. I mean, you kind of touched on it, V. Are there any hooks that you're really wanting to tug on? Again, it can be long term. Like, are you still invested in the red-haired pirates, for example?
Absolutely.
Have you moved on to something else? Is there something new that's come up that you want to see more of? Is there any predictions even? I think that falls along the same. Dylan?
I think with the red-haired Shanks crew, I think they're always going to be interesting until if at some point he gives them a final resolution. Whether that be they all died or no, they all happily retired. Until he gives them an out of the story, I'm always going to be interested in what's going on with them. And like I said, the Kuro, I want to see how the whole Kuro interaction actually plays out and how that, like, I'm going to say fight turns out, but I'm interested for that too.
Yeah, I feel like the fact that they brought up Usopp's dad kind of keeps that relevant. Like, it keeps the red-haired pirates thing kind of at the forefront of the mind so that you don't forget about it, which tells me that they're certainly going to come back, which I'm all for, because the little taste that we got in the very first volume made me want to find out more about that crew.
Can't wait till we get our payoff on
that. Yes, very excited. And I have a feeling like it's a trend that's going to continue throughout because it is, such a large piece of writing / animation. Well, not animation, drawing, whatever you want to call it. Animation. It's literature. It's literature. It is through drawing, but it is literature. It's such a large work of literary fiction that they gotta bring some back. Like, they have to keep these themes that are going to be that continuous line throughout, and they can't cut those too often, and they can't, like, there's so much there that there are themes and hooks and storylines that are bound to repeat, and I feel like the red hair pirates one is certainly one that we're going to see more of, and I'm very eager for it. Yeah, and just in the shorter term, everything I just enumerated not too long ago, I'm just super excited for next volume at this point. I just want to find out how all of those questions I had are going to be answered, if at all. But yeah, it's I feel like it was a really good way to end a volume.
I would agree. It definitely left us on a higher note than I think the last couple chapters may have or could have potentially ended on. Any last impressions?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and lift the embargo on Volume 4 for you guys. Might pop a couple chapters down right before bed tonight. But yeah, I just want to thank you, both of you, for joining me again for another wonderful episode here. And I want to thank the listeners for listening. And if you want to reach out to us, we would love to hear from you. You can reach us at podpodfruit@gmail.com. You can also reach us on social media at Twitter or X, if you want to call it that, at podpodfruit. And I just want to thank you all so much for giving us a listen. And until next time, bon voyage.
Bon voyage.
Bye.